try and turn mine off.
I just took out my knees off, that's all.
I just gave you guys the definitions that I've been working on
All right.
in the
Hi, Jim.
barn dominium.
Well, he sent like definitions of some of the ordinance from like 22 or something. Yeah, he said there were definitions of things.
Yeah,
You remember what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about, but I don't think they're in here yet.
Just so you guys know, you're live,
Live, huh?
broadcast to the world. This, nothing needs to be messed with. If you want to move the camera, that's,
Yeah,
Our work
believe it.
session is live on this thing?
It's already started?
Yeah.
Oh,
But the meeting hasn't started.
When did that happen?
I don't
about a
know.
minute ago.
No, they want to know when
I can
the
text you.
live stuff started.
About this?
A month ago.
I got
Don't need to mess with it at all. It's a control. There's a lot of control again.
Move it around and then you come back into work. And,
I need to call them.
and we, yeah, he's.
Oh. I don't think mine is color.
But I had looked at it on the internet, that's why I think it was yellow. It was no color.
No,
Mine's not like that. All this
some go with my friends.
color, so I don't know what's new and what's old.
I did.
Yeah, I didn't have
I
a
mean,
version.
this.
Yeah, she's got color from her computer.
No, well, it was the color in
Yeah, I
my
knew you were
computer,
sick.
but then my internet went down, so I came and had both. She didn't print it.
She did, I remember you used to
And
work.
we went back and
Do
colored.
some work and
See, yours
it's
is even darker. Mine's not dark, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I wasn't gonna sit there and go line by line to find out where the difference was.
I go, laying in my bed. In your bed. You're not coming up. Coming up, you're supposed to. You never
Strike
called me.
them out so that there's.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You didn't. I said, yeah, I sent you a text.
So,
You know, I'm not gonna go all the way up there and I don't know
yes,
anybody
it
there.
started with where we,
I said, no, I got. You know, so it's-
and I colored that.
Well, I just got the,
We didn't go till- Yeah, we didn't go home till like.
Oh my God, good for you.
I didn't.
Yeah, I could never make it up that late.
So I,
I can't go, but it
and
was-
then
This
my
is my
computer,
bedtime
my
about
internet
now.
went
You
down.
gotta get up in
So
the morning
it
tomorrow?
came up,
No,
yeah.
And Rose,
but it's just hard. 'cause
and
I-
Rose and I went through it.
Been up
Yeah.
And
Thirty.
I
Nice to be able to bake it because I was.
Yeah.
I'm getting up at 4:30 and stuff.
I yellowed what we had
Yeah.
worked
See,
on
this thing is
before.
always. No, I think you got.
Oh, it is
No,
dark.
it's-
No, you said it's live.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, it was
I'm like,
kind
this
of
is weird.
Way to pause it.
Okay.
shaded.
I see it now.
Shaded, but it wasn't
Well, network shows west.
yellow, so I went through
Network
the
shows
yellow.
west.
Kind of marked.
Well, I wasn't sure who was calling because I didn't hear anything. So.
Yeah. They're making my sister-in-law.
I've been
They're like
trying to turn this
oatmeal,
off.
chocolate chip, they got everything.
I'm turning it off.
No,
Tell you,
I like to.
I hate my phone.
I do too. It's a smartphone for dumb
Yes.
people.
No,
I don't want.
thank you so much.
My kids have to show me how.
No, thank you, Lauren.
Like a cookie? Me either, thank you.
So I told, I'll try to get 3-4 guys up from Detroit to play. I found a venue. I told them about it.
Yeah.
We have a agenda for tonight. Probably not.
Record album or something new.
Yeah, there was,
I think.
I
I printed off.
Some kind of weird that.
Oh, yeah, it was just our minutes.
He's kind of stuck a little bit.
Just our minutes.
I know, I need to get together with him.
Yeah, well,
He's saying he wants to go to lunch.
I only
Yeah,
get.
yeah. He's.
I turned it off.
I got
my
some ideas, and
computer.
Tim.
Want me to make copies of this?
You know each other.
I don't know if we did it, those are
Or
just.
shall we save this until our regular meeting? It's minutes from last.
We'll save it till the next.
He's a plumber too, right? He does for a living, so.
Mhm.
So.
Hopefully it's off. You saw me turn it off.
That's a good combo.
I don't think anybody will be calling me, but I know.
Feeling better now, huh?
I
I
never,
am. Happy New Year.
You too. Me too.
Laura has cookies. You want a cookie?
No, no, thanks.
I thought you were gonna say Lois,
in the car.
Lois got some kind of disease or something.
I got to do that too, but not yet.
I've got like 20 pounds to lose here.
Okay, so
You all got
what I
that?
printed, does this replace the old one?
Well, no,
Not yet.
this is our rough draft. And actually, when I sent that email to Rose to have those printed out, it should have been the whole ordinance. It should have been pages, I think, yeah, it's 67 through 97.
well,
Things that
no,
I redrew.
this is for everything. from the
I don't-
yeah.
beginning.
I noticed that today because there were two in my box and I thought, oh,
It was in our email.
I got an email with,
Are there,
with definitions. That's the only
this
one.
was like a week ago, right?
Well, I don't remember
a
the
couple of weeks ago.
Oh, 'cause I went through them and I got one with, you're doing definitions of the ordinance. It was one. It was that.
Yeah, I wasn't even working on definitions. All I was working on was, farm forest all the way down to commercial. So I kind of, everything that you talked about reorganizing, I kind of put them into place and after you guys review it, if everybody says, hey, let's change it, then we can.
Okay.
So what page did we actually?
Yeah, so
Probably not.
what page did you start on, Jim? Please,
Okay, let me, I'll bring that up real quick.
and then we'll just go to the
The
meeting.
sign-in sheet.
The draft, for example. Minutes.
Okay, it would be. Oh. The bottom of the page should say 4-5.
Okay, thank you.
Did you highlight your changes or anything? or-
No, I just put them in the order that we talked about, resorting and adding.
Same 4-5.
4-5.
Well, this, you're Zach. I'm Laura. Nice to meet you.
It's the same.
I don't know if we have to open and do
Yeah,
all
we
the
do.
things. We do?
Well, we at least have to open.
Okay,
and
we'll
probably
open the
do
meeting
pledge.
at 6:02. I guess we're recording. Are we recording?
We're
or is it
live.
Just live.
Like,
So- Or both. I don't. I'll put it to record.
I just-
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, sir.
Hi.
Hey,
What's your name?
I'm Zach. I'm with Campbell's Northwest.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
All
All right, we're gonna say the pledge. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so this is our first work session, but this is, Zach with Network. Oops, did I break it already?
I don't think so.
Thanks. So this is Zach with Networks Northwest, who's gonna help us with our master plan. So I think that's kind of where we'll start today. Basically, just a presentation and tell
Yeah,
us
I
what
think so.
Yeah,
you would.
It's-
Laura said, I'm Zach, I'm the community planner with Networks Northwest. We're a regional planning organization that works basically for the 10-county region. Manly all the way up to the bridge. We tend to work with communities such as yourselves. We don't, we work with Traverse City, but Traverse City has their own planner, so we find ourselves more often in townships throughout the region. Just so that you're familiar with how I've how much work I've done in Benzie. It's not a ton. I did a recreation director study for the county last year. I also helped the county board of commissioners update their master plan, which was just a few addendums. We helped with some recreation related areas as well, including the county's recreation plan right now as well. So our office, our department pretty frequently works in this part of the region where we tend to find ourselves in Manistee, Benzie, Grand Traverse. Right now, that's just who we tend to work with right now. All I'm trying to get through tonight is just to kind of give you a breakdown of what this process looks like, what's going to be in the master plan, what to expect, and then basically how we'll work towards getting this done in the next year. So, any questions so far about? I'll go into detail, but anything that you're wondering? Okay. So typically I have the contract in front of me so I can give you a breakdown of each of the deliverables. I have a dead car battery right now, so I drove from Kalkaska today instead of Traverse City where the office is. I live in Kalkaska, so typically I'd have the contract to write down, but I've done enough because I think I can summarize what the plan look like. So with all of the plans that Networks Northwest does, master plans, we have two forms of public input. We do an open house or a drop-in session. That would be either, we invite people to the town hall and I come here with images of different types of corridors because you guys have 31 going through here, or different types of neighborhoods. And we talk about, what kind of businesses do you want to see in the community? What kind of what does transportation look like in 10 years here? What does housing look like? What does ag preservation look like? So we'll do an in-person meeting, and then we do a survey as part of that contract as well. I've already had a discussion with somebody in the community about the potential for mailing out a survey, the ability of the survey to have residents, so we can talk about that and how we best want to get the word out there because it can be difficult. And not a lot of people are checking, the municipal webpage or reading their newspaper to see that notification that the survey's out there. So once we get to that point, we'll talk about the best way for your community specifically to get the survey out there. We'll also, at our next meeting, start working on that survey so we know what questions we want to ask and how we want to ask them. Behind the scenes, our department, basically the plan that you're going to get covers all of the Michigan Planning and Enabling Act requirements. MSU Extension has a nice checklist that they've made that we can follow, that we use to actually make sure, because there's, communities that don't have an airport in them, you have to specifically say we don't have an airport here. It's just, just one of those regulatory things that it has to be in there. So what you get will be up to the Michigan Planning and Enabling Act requirements. Typically our plans are broken into chapters by local economy, housing, demographics and population change, transportation infrastructure and services. And then typically we throw in a chapter in a topic area that is important to your community. So just for example, Mayfield Township and Grand Traverse County, they see Traverse City building out, they see suburban development pressures going south towards them. So the big thing was agricultural preservation. So we have a whole chapter in there where we look at all their soil data, all of their prime farmland, and give them steps for exactly how that should look from a zoning perspective going forward. So that's how our chapters are broken down. In terms of how these meetings will go, I typically spend, eyes tend to glaze over around an hour 20 is my experience, so I don't go longer than that. Typically 45 minutes to an hour, I'll come with a worksheet or sticky notes, and we'll talk about a topical area that you're interested in or answers that I need questions to. So, I'll read your zoning ordinance. I'll have some questions like, hey, I see you guys are doing this, but in last week's meeting, you said something that might change how you're doing that. Here are 3 options that I think you can go with. I typically go with the medium option on everything. I reiterate that with every community that I work with that I don't live or work here. I'm not uninterested because I like learning about where people live and work, but I am disinterested. I I'm not advocating for anything that you should do. A little roller coaster on 31. It's totally up to you. So the way I tend to get around that is I get a feel for how intensely you're trying to push for one thing or another, and I will give easy, medium, hard options for each of those. So if your goal is a specific type of housing development, I can show you, here's the least regulatory way of getting that. Here's kind of the mid-range to get housing that you want. And then here's like kind of the, you might ruffle some tail feathers, but this is, the nitty-gritty way that you would want to get this done. And then as planning commission representatives of the community, I'll be facilitating discussions to help you get consensus on exactly what will go in the plan. What do you want with local economy? What do you want with corridor, housing, etc. So at the conclusion, I would say the major meetings will be drafting survey. We'll have a few on, general goals and objectives for the community. We'll review public input for the open house and survey at one of the meetings. And then one of the more in-depth, can be more in-depth, is the future land use and the zoning plan. So, and I'm sure through discussion, I'll figure out where you're at in terms of how involved you want to be in that. I have some communities that go, hey, let's go parcel by parcel. Agriculture, residential, mixed use. They want to go parcel by parcel. That's fine. I'm willing to do that. I have other communities that go, bring us a map of our future land use and we'll tell you what's wrong or what's right. Totally up to you. So I believe in the contract, it's 8 meetings, if I'm not mistaken, 6 or 8. That's really a number that I'm going to come here as many times as it takes to get the plan done. The number is in there in case, as some communities do, we're 5 meetings in and we're still working on the survey. And it's like, okay, guys, now we have to move on. But so final deliverable, you'll have a PDF document that I can't remember. I wish I had the contract with me, if we're doing the public hearing or the public adoption process or not.
We do a
Hearing.
public, and I have it here, public input session, is that the same?
It would be on the second page. It would be adoption or a public hearing, adoption process, something like that.
I think our original thing was just like the basic, and then we kind of wanted to learn more and see what else.
Okay. Yeah, and
I don't see that facilitation of the public hearing meeting,
that one.
but I don't see that, I don't have the checked copy, the
Okay.
signed copy.
And that's not a huge, something is just like me to be here to answer questions. If they think people are going to show up with pitchforks and which sometimes, it does help that. But it's nothing that you guys can handle. I'll have a draft resolution for you. And I'll give you the procedures for the public hearing and the adoption process.
Will you do the survey first, though?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the survey is going to be the first thing we do. So the survey, we'll start working on at the next month's work session. Hopefully we'll finish that up at the second meeting, and we'll talk about something else at the second meeting. We use a software for our survey. So it's a QR code or a link, or you can click the link on our website. I believe it was one of the trustees that had reached out to me about mailing.
Jim, yeah.
Was it Jim? Oh, okay. So we can talk about.
About what? What?
About mailing a paper like postcard to everyone to let them know, so they're not relying on online media to
Okay.
find out about it. The way that we present is cheapest. Click a link, take the survey, it's in our software. There's a really expensive version that we have done, which is mail a paper survey to everybody. That's very expensive, and then the mid-range, which would be sending out a postcard, making a paper copy available if they come to the township hall, etc. So that's kind of the basic process. And then, like I said, each chapter is laid out in those topic areas: public input, goals and objectives, zoning. And if you're interested in kind of seeing what information goes into the master plan, the Michigan Planning Enabling Act has an entire section on, you know, you have to talk about complete streets and, you know, like complete, just as an example, you guys don't have an airport here, right?
Yeah.
You don't have, it's not, you know, it's rural Michigan, we're driving everywhere. We still have to say something about complete streets for the sake of the state.
And what's a complete street?
It's, making streets, easy for pedestrians to cross and bikers to use. It makes sense in villages, makes sense in like the city of Manistee, Traverse City, Inland Township, it's just, it's not gonna make sense. So, but we still have to mention the concept in there in order to check that box. So, on that, I'm gonna just, any questions so far about anything?
I do have one question.
Yeah.
I'm getting a lot of people saying, well, you guys want to extend your commercial corridor, or the corridor to have the option for rural residential properties to be changed to commercial if somebody purchases. And people are saying, well, I don't want that. I don't want somebody turning a property next to me into commercial property. And again, you know, how do we address that? Because, I mean, a lot of these people, they bought right along the highway. Sadly enough, that's your commercial corridor.
It's why I haven't run for politics. I'm here to help
Get that.
you all. So that will be something that we'll address in the survey, if that's a pressing issue that you're getting. We can also make it a part of the public input session. And if people are all saying one thing and it's, you know, the consensus, that's the consensus. That's typically what the planning commission will then advocate for, unless it's, you know, blatantly not a good practice, unless people are blatantly wanting something that's not a good practice.
Now, is there a certain percentage that's required for if you're in a township?
Commercial?
Yes.
No, Mayfield Township has hardly any, I mean, probably 20 acres.
Okay, so I mean, our idea was to go from Bessie River Road down to Thompsonville and make it optional for all of the residential properties to be rezoned commercial if somebody purchases them.
Just make it mixed use. Just say you can build residential or commercial use.
Okay,
Is that what you're?
well, I mean, like some people will, they said they don't want a commercial property next to them.
Is this the township's perspective that the whole area should be just commercial, or that it should be allowable to have either or?
Right now it's either or.
Yeah, so, you know, people can keep their property
On 31.
on
Mhm.
31,
Yeah, that's,
because that's your commercial corridor, and that's what we want to maintain.
Yeah, probably.
And back side roads.
Bear Lake Township in Manistee, they made their entire corridor mixed use. So you can build commercial, and then you just do design standards. So commercial looks this way, residential looks this way, this is how far away it is from the road.
So basically following the ordinance.
Yeah, but again, you know, if you make that whole area mixed use, are people gonna be upset that commercial's going right next to them?
Probably, yeah. But,
I don't know, I don't live here,
right.
but from what you're saying, yeah.
Okay, so there's no limitation saying you can't do the whole corridor.
We could do the whole
Okay.
thing, if
But
the whole
there's no
township.
limitation that says you have to do either.
No, you can
And there's some
zone it however.
properties down along, once you get past the big curves down there, I mean, they're totally unbuildable.
well, the state,
Yeah,
Close
there's
to
state
Thompsonville.
land down there, there's swamp,
mhm.
but existing properties that have the capacity to be built on would have the option to do that. But yeah, there's a lot of them down there, state land and swamp back there.
Yeah, and you know, it could be a matter of, and that's why we do in-person public input sessions, that people are against commercial going in next to them. But if you have design standards attached to those commercial developments, like, you know, buffering with vegetation and
Right.
setbacks from the parcel lines, maybe they're okay with it parking in the back of the building. Restricting lighting so that it can't shine on their property. They might be more okay with it when they have those reassurances. Yeah. So I guess the other part of this meeting that I wanted to utilize is, just figuring out what's going on in the township, what you're experiencing, and then what you're hoping for the future, you know, just kind of anecdotally what's going on here. I feel free to.
Basically, we're a bedroom community for Traverse, so we keep seeing more and more housing coming in. A lot more traffic than what used to be. So, yeah.
Yep, okay. The housing that's coming in, does it look how you want it to?
Well, we haven't really allowed any new developments in here. What's the oldest development? Or I should say
Inland Oaks.
the latest development.
Probably
Right, like
one of those.
subdivisions, we don't get, we have a minimum of 2.5 acre to build on rural residential, which is most of our area. So there's a lot of that, but what's happening is our bigger parcels are getting sold and split. So where it used to just be one house on 40 acres, they're selling it. So we're seeing a lot of homes, but not like apartments and condos and,
You're getting single family on kind of medium size.
Basically.
yeah.
But with the apartments though, are we gonna try to keep those in the commercial corridor though? Not in the residential area, because so that, I think that needs to be talked about.
Yeah, I think that's something we do need to figure out if we're gonna designate them for that.
Because it would be, I think it makes more sense to have it along the highway for fire and whatever, and then it's actually, I don't know how much land they would need, but it seemed like it would be more practical to have it where the fire's not seeing it through a lot quicker,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, everything that anybody does like that, it's gotta be approved by.
Yeah, but I'm saying we got this half mile deep right now, you're from 31. I think that's enough acreage to do that,
Oh, yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so you're not taking the land in the back or this way to the south. It would still be nice if we had some areas still agricultural, but it doesn't seem like it's going that route,
That's the other thing I was gonna mention. One of the things we've talked about before is like factory farms. We don't want to
No, we
have
don't want them.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Also, we're very concerned about the environment and a lot of the lakes around here. There are lakes that have dried up and used to be waterfront and are not anymore. And then we have wetlands that we want to make sure those are preserved. That's, I think, really important to
Our water setbacks, I don't think are as they should be now.
What are they right now?
I don't know, I think
Yeah, how
just
many feet?
50 feet
Yeah,
or
50
something.
That sounds right.
And I think Eagle says 500 feet.
We usually the medium level, we usually recommend 100. If Eagle says 500, then.
Well,
I don't know that.
I'm just saying that's
Yeah.
what I got off the internet.
Yeah,
And that has to be looked at by case, because you could be 1,000 feet away from the river, but when you start digging, you got water coming out of the ground.
yeah.
So that is part of that, so we still have some areas here that they've witnessed that, those kind of things. And so it's not just the distance, but we have to watch the water table, so.
Yeah, so in the plan, we'll map out all of your soils, wetlands, deep slopes. What's the other one? Basically all the natural features, and then
springs. Do you look for springs?
I don't know if we have that data.
You have the, what do you call that?
Topographical.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Topography.
the most useful is gonna be the hydric soils, which is pretty much just wetlands, like when we overlay them.
Is there anywhere you can find the springs? I was just curious if we have springs around here, because some of the other towns like Honor and Frankfurt, they have a spring where you
Well,
can go get water.
We have
Yeah.
them here.
Yeah.
We have them here. I know where they're at, and a lot of them, and
Can you go and get water?
Yeah, you can get water. It's not gonna look like what you see in Honor. But it's ice cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
I go all the way to Onekama.
No, you don't need to do that. You can go right up to north of the fish hatchery. I can show you where there's.
Okay.
Yeah, one on the ground. That's the one I had to tell them about the
Yeah.
gravel pit. But there's
Yeah,
other
yeah.
ones, I know there's more, so,
That would be nice to offer the residents,
Mhm.
just to have,
well,
the natural features I think are really important to everybody. We just don't want it to get, the beauty of it to be,
but
developed
And we
too
still
much.
want agriculture protected,
Yeah,
no farms, no food.
yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
to protect the soil so we can garden.
Mhm.
I don't want to take out my edible chestnut trees or my orchard.
And I don't think we have to worry about agriculture anyway along.
Well, not along the corridor.
Because it's not a large enough area for anybody even to farm.
No, but
They can have a garden.
I think we still need to find a way to protect that.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about the apartments, that was gonna start down here by the Marvin Gardens, right? There was that area of down here. Wasn't there what guy wanted to put in a,
Well, up here in Blackford, he wanted to put in he called it a tiny home, but they would still meet our criteria, just didn't have the acreage. He wanted to put a small development in there.
but he wasn't gonna be coming off of 31 though, right?
Oh, it'd be coming right off.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, I think we have to pay attention to that, so we don't have something that, because I think it's gonna upset neighbors if if you go a little bit too far to the north or too
Oh,
far to
yeah,
the
and
south.
people are gonna be ticked either way we look at it.
Well, I think
They don't
as a
want-
board, we're more, we want to conserve what we have. I wouldn't say we're anti-growth, but we don't want to boom town.
Yeah. From what you guys sound, you're in a similar position to what Mayfield is, and I
Yeah.
think the development pressure is probably more here because of the proximity. You're between a lot of things. Whereas Mayfield, what's your heading south from Traverse City? It's, people are traveling out to the dunes from here. You're gonna get a lot of commercial, potential retail pressure. So basically what I'm hearing is preserve ag,
Mhm.
allow different types of housing developments as long as they're located strategically,
Mhm.
like near the corridor, near services, and then denser mixed use, but primarily commercial development on the corridor.
Yeah, I don't think we want to change our acreage. I do want to preface that we have been working on fine tuning our zoning to try and move some things around. There are a lot of things that are like allowed use by right without a site plan review or anything. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute, what? So we're trying to move some things around. And in that process, we're also all kind of educating ourselves on what's even in here because we don't know it by heart. So a lot of this stuff, we're kind of just learning as we go. So we had hoped to be done with this part before we got to the master plan, but it just didn't work that way. So,
Well, typically we recommend doing the master plan before zoning.
Okay.
Because then there's the whole conversation around, like, you might be reading the zoning ordinance over and over again, trying to figure out what to do with it. And then through this process, it's like, oh, that's exactly what people wanted.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. Because the zoning plan and the future land use plan, those come at the end of the whole master plan document. Sorry, I'm just assuming that, I don't know where everyone's at in terms of the planning process or anything. Has anyone else done a master plan before?
Yeah.
Okay.
just pretend none of us know
Okay,
anything.
I just didn't want to, I didn't want to be like, here's, like, we've all been on this commission for 7 years, So, the master plan is basically data and public input. If you want to distill into those two things. We can't do a master plan with just data because numbers, they just don't tell us everything. I can learn a lot from the economic census. It doesn't tell me what it's like to work here. And then we need the public input portion for that exact reason. So we do those two. The plan, ultimately how it affects zoning and why you typically do it before zoning is because you have your future land use map. It's not an official map. It's like the ideal 20 years from now, this is what the community looks like. So people will freak out because they'll see their house and it's colored in commercial. And it's like, No, we're not rezoning your property commercial. We're saying in 20 to 30 years, if growth continues how we think it will, this would ideally be the commercial demand that will inevitably come from this growth should go here, not over here. It should go in farmland. It should go next to the corner. So you have your future land use map where we describe each of your districts. You might have 6 or 7. We connect those to your current zoning ordinance. So we say, for instance, in Mayfield, they had one agricultural residential district like you do. Through the process in their future land use planning, they said, actually what we need is an agricultural preservation district and an agricultural residential district. Preservation district, larger minimums, has to remain farmland. The only way you can develop here is if you only develop 25% of it, the other 75% has to stay farmland, open space, recreational. And the ag residential is kind of what you have, 2.5 to 5 acres, most likely single family residential with allowances for agricultural uses. At the end of that, the end of the zoning plan is what would be your bulk requirements. So that's your setbacks, building height, the intended uses, whether it's residential, commercial. We'll have all of that. Trying to think about waterfront setbacks would be a part of that, so that when you go to actually update the zoning ordinance, you already have that for all of your districts. You go to write your residential zoning district in your zoning ordinance, and you just look at the master plan and go, this is what we said we want here. These are the uses. So that's why a lot of the time communities will reach out to us, do a master plan, and go, okay, now we need to do our zoning ordinance, because we didn't realize that everybody wanted being behind the stores. So good to know.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess, in a nutshell, the process. The other,
We have public land in our area too. So our township, we have state land. You get out towards Sand Dunes, it's national park. But I think we have to be careful too on the develops near those pieces. So I don't think that'd be a good idea to have an apartment complex next to the state land. So because it is part for tourism, it actually draws people in to spend money too. So.
Yeah, and I think another concern is the big windmills and the solar panels.
yeah, that's up in the air.
Most people don't like looking at those, even driving past them, let alone having it in the next yard.
Yeah.
In the long term, that stuff, when it wears out, it's not very long term. And then what do you do with it? And it leaches into the soil and yeah.
So the master plan, the way I see it is like you said, it's a view of the future. So if someone comes in and asks they want to change their property to commercial, we look at our future land use map and we say, is that part of our future land use? If it is, then we have to go through all of our steps. If it isn't,
That gives you a basis to say no.
then we can say no.
If you arbitrarily say no, that's when lawsuits.
Right. So that's the thing, is this will also protect us as a board
Mhm.
to be able to keep us where we want and be able to say no when somebody comes in with a whatever. But this is like the behind the scenes where we've been around for 100 years. There's people live here are this age and sex and race and blah, blah, blah. What we'd like to see, is it more what it is and then what we'd like to see?
Yeah. So the snapshot in time. So typically, because of the availability of the census data, we'll do trends from 2000 to 2020. We also have a software called Business Analyst Online. So it'll give us reports about the community. So it's cool when I pull it up. I'll print them out for you, but they call them tapestry segments, and they use different data points like age data, income data, housing preferences, median house value to actually describe groups in the community. And a rural community like this will probably have like 3 or 4. And it's actually pretty good at describing who lives here in my experience.
Mm.
Because so I live in Kalkaska and I've done it for Kalkaska and I was like,
That's
yeah,
right.
that does describe who lives here. So we have, that's one way of saying we have software that helps us to develop reports. We also take raw data from the U.S. Census, Economic Census, Bureau of Labor Statistics, and we'll distill that dense, boring data into graphs that are readable to anyone in the community. So it's a glorified book report, essentially, is the master plan. Is I come in, I write a report about your community based on information that you tell me and what I'm seeing from data sources. And then we take what we heard and we ask people, is this correct? Are you also feeling that more people are going to move here because Traverse City is building out? Yes. Okay. What do you want to do about it? And then it's goals and objectives.
So the master plan is basically our goal for the future. And then we would say, we would like to have if apartment complexes come in, we want them to be here. And then the zoning ordinance is, if they're gonna be here, here's how they have to get here.
Yep.
These are the minutia, lights pointing down and fences and blah, blah, blah. The master plan is just kind of a overview of everything. Okay.
Yeah, and we can get as in depth on topics as you think you'll need to be. Some communities, everyone there wants ag preservation. The data says that they have all prime farmland. It's pretty easy to write, protect the farmland, this is how. Something else, like here, if it's like apartments are a whole new thing you're gonna be getting here and you haven't seen that development yet, we might want to actually spell out exactly how you want them to look, and obviously we'll say what district it should be in, but just so that when you go to write the ordinance and people go, hey, I didn't want apartments here, actually say, well, we asked about a survey, we have data that says we support it. That's just an example. I'm not saying.
Could we say, like in that scenario, could we say, we're not crazy about the idea of apartments, but maybe we could do a tiny home community instead, or no? I'm just curious. I don't know why that just popped into my head when you started talking about apartments. I'm like, I'd rather see tiny homes.
Well,
than
we've
apartments, but
discussed
I don't know if
that
everybody
in
would.
the past. That's
Yeah.
something that we've discussed in terms of,
Tiny homes.
the
Yeah.
problem is our current zoning, we have a minimum width of wall, like 24
Yeah.
feet. So basically ruling out single wide.
But we would allow apartments?
No, do we?
Oh, I thought you said we were allowing apartments. I'm like, can we just?
No.
Condominium development.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're only allowed here. But if we were going to allow tiny home communities, it would have to be specific areas.
Yeah, we could change, that's
Yeah,
what we talked about.
I was just thinking I'd rather have those than apartments.
Well,
but
the
if
apartments.
we don't have to have apartments. then
I mean, that's the other question.
The
Can we
reason-
just say no apartments ever? I mean,
Yeah, you can say whatever you want. Yeah, now it's your community.
Well, the thing for the apartments, I think the reason why some people want apartments is because there's not enough apartments in Traverse City,
Right.
but the
Right.
jobs are in
And
Traverse
it's
City.
expensive.
So what, to me, it seems like if that's an issue for them, and when we take them over here, I don't think we're gonna benefit by the apartments.
No.
well, I know you say that, but we have a mobile home community.
Yeah, but we
I
have,
mean,
we already have
we
that.
work
I'm
in
talking about this time, but if we start just taking our land and doing those type of developments, I don't think we're at that stage right now, but I thought, well, we have this corridor. If we have to use that, and that's where it's at, and that's it. So we don't have them going up the road, 2 miles or a half mile or whatever. But,
That's a lot more dense when it comes to people, though. All of a sudden you have a lot more traffic.
I mean,
We would-
And those are the kind of questions that the survey will ask, right? Like,
Yeah, that's this whole process will be answering, essentially what do you want the community to look like?
Because it's, what's interesting to me is we're kind of, we don't get much turnout, so it's us.
You guys aren't rare in that, you know.
Yeah, and then we think it one way and we think that's how everyone else thinks. And then I hear from other members, like the board members and they're like, no, people don't think that at all. And I'm like, what?
That's why we do the public input.
Yeah,
Okay.
totally surprises.
Yeah, no, we cite our source show up.
In the Mayfield, is that Matt Mansfield? Or, Mansfield, Doug,
No, he's,
he's supervisor, right? But he also works with the MTA.
he's another township.
Well, he's on the board for that MTA though. He's on so he's over that way, close to that though.
Is it Paradise
'Cause
Town?
they have no commercial.
Mayfield?
Well, where he's at, I think he's no commercial. Because I was gonna, I wanted to sit in the meetings.
But you're right.
So,
That part of Grand Traverse County is almost entirely agricultural. They don't hardly have any residential use.
I have another question for you. Say somebody has 150 acres of residential, rural residential, and they decide that they want to use part of it for something else that's not rural residential. Is what we're going to be doing taking away the ability of the person that owns 150 acres to put a smaller chunk into something else that maybe end up commercial?
Not if you don't want to do that. I'm not updating the zoning ordinance. So those specifics of like, actual uses, like when we write zoning ordinance, we use the North American Industry Classification Code, which is like every business gets a code and it says, your retail, which is 46, your, retail pharmacy, which is like 4611. So it's a book this thick of codes. When we write a zoning ordinance, we go through every single one and say, do you want this type of business in your district, in this district? We're not doing that as part of this process. We can get general uses like this should just be agricultural, or this should be retail services, or this should be both. So we're not going to change the zoning. So
The reason I'm asking that though, if somebody buys like 150 acres or whatever,
Mhm.
and they think they can do with it whatever they want, are we going to be saying to people, no, it's your property, but you can't do that?
that's what zoning is.
That's what zoning.
Well, yeah, I know, but we have a process where you can change your zoning. You
Only
can
if
make-
it's part of the master plan. If 150 acres over here and this guy wants to put commercial in the middle,
no,
we don't do that.
That's what I'm
not
saying.
part
So it's going to limit the landowner's ability to do what they want.
Which,
and we're not talking about like if you have a farm and you want to put up a fruit stand.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
know.
you could call it commercial, but really, to me, that's
Yeah.
what we want, It seems like that would be a lot better
I
than.
mean, essentially, we don't
building.
want a whole lot different than what we
No,
already have.
this is
also.
true.
I mean, the red is commercial. We were considering, the biggest changes we were thinking is making this whole thing red. This we're already getting screamed at from
Mhm.
people about that.
But that could be proposed, or it could be,
Yeah.
it's not for sure thing. We can say, this could be, for the future, but maybe some of those areas might be conservancy land at some time, that is in the commercial corridor, so.
Right, and at no point, even though on the future land use map, it might be red, we're at no point gonna force somebody who is residential to go commercial because they're in,
You
right?
can't do that.
Can't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Just automatically rezone.
So it could stay, a chunk of it residential.
And if you do, yeah, you can.
Can change their zoning while they're living there. That's been, Paul will tell you all about that.
You just have to, provide a notice, but if you do it for the entire community all at once, you don't even have to provide a notice.
Oh, that would not go over well.
That happened to you. You used to.
Yeah,
be-
yeah, they did
I'm not
it.
saying it's without its political pitfalls.
Yeah, but they did it to me, and they had no reason to do it. And it was I had a game bird license and a state license, but they did that I was even communicating with them. And they said, we have no intention to do that, but they did. And it's still, to this day, it's not written up as ag. So So,
They changed
they
it
said
from
they
ag.
they can change it back, but I mean, I fought it and, but I had a license and I could have a cougar or a bear in my yard. The way the license was. And they're like, no, well, you didn't have an ordinance. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah, and that's, yeah, typically there's a non-conformities part of it. You have to have a non-conformities part of your zoning.
but you were also talking more like on the eminent domain kind of thing though, right? Is that
No.
the change?
No, eminent domain's taking property.
I know, but if you're gonna do a proposal for that, I mean,
Well,
we'll say, well, we're gonna do it commercial at some point.
I
you have no
haven't
choice.
seen a community, well, maybe I have. I can't remember exactly. I'm not gonna name them, but
It's okay.
it was, I believe, so that they had, it wasn't even like a major corridor, it was just the main commercial road going through their town, and it was, kind of interspersed with commercial and residential.
Mhm.
They eventually wanted that to all be commercial. And so if you rezone that commercial, that doesn't mean that that house loses all of its value overnight. It's grandfathered in.
But are they gonna be paying commercial taxes?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we'd have to make sure though.
No, because that's an assessed use. not
Yeah,
zoned.
yeah.
Right.
So, that just means that, and this, again, this is in your non-conformity section, that would mean that like if 50% or more of the house was damaged,
Mhm.
now it can't be rebuilt, it's not commercial. But as long as it's selling,
Mhm.
it's still residential.
Well, I think we're gonna get somebody come up here and they're gonna wanna get these residential areas to go commercial. We'll buy it from you, putting pressure on it.
Well, I guess, and we'll get really in depth in this
Okay.
during the process, but, what this community that I worked with, they made it, I can't remember if they did mixed use or commercial, but from just offhand, what you guys are talking about, probably just making a mixed use would be the best route. And just allowing commercial and residential in the district.
So I don't know if this is even the right question for you or the assessor or what, but so currently we have a piece of property that's really long, like 40 acres or whatever, where our proposed future land use is so many feet back on to be all red. Well, that parcel is twice that. So it would basically, we would rezone half,
You can have a parcel with two different zoning designations.
two different, okay.
That does happen.
And does that affect their taxes?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Commercial is more,
Yeah,
Cause we
Zoning and assessed use are different, so it's however it's assessed.
Cause we had a guy come here who wanted to do commercial, but he was only gonna be using 2 acres of 40. And we said, he wanted to switch it to commercial, and we were like, you need to talk to your accountant because you're gonna switch the whole parcel to 40 acres to commercial, you're gonna be paying. So we weren't sure about that. Could you use one parcel? Could 2 acres of it be classified as commercial and the other be residential? We advised him to maybe split it, but those might be questions for, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I would have to ask for zoning gurus.
Yeah, okay.
That's not my expertise.
I think this survey is gonna tell us a lot. And,
Yeah.
having a meeting after that with the public, but I think we'd upset a lot of people if we said, well, this is gonna be commercial, this is gonna be commercial, this can, without.
Well, just
Yeah.
saying it in passing at some of our meetings, we've
Yeah,
been
well, I
getting
mean,
a lot of
it's a
slack.
more in-depth conversation, because you have the non-conformities portion of your zoning ordinance. So it's like, even though it's a zone commercial, it can stay a house forever. It can be sold as a house forever. It's just a matter of, 100 years, what is this area ideally? And I'm not talking about your community right now, I'm just using it as an example. But ideally, in 100 years, what does this look like? If Traverse City triples in size and this is a bustling corridor into, Sleeping Bear Dunes, you're probably going to want denser commercial, maybe mixed use development, and maybe a single family house on 5 acres is really stymieing your ability to use this commercial in its best use. But getting non-conformity certificates is, as long as this is being used as a residential house and, you know, a certain portion of it isn't destroyed, we're not gonna tell you that you can't have a house there. So what I'm trying to say is that there's a lot of nitty-gritty detail. If you just say, we're gonna turn this all at commercial, it's like, well, my house is here. It's like, yeah, of course that's overwhelming. But when you get into the actual conversation and explain how that looks in the ordinance and in practice, that, you know, people might be more okay with that. That's why we do the public input section.
Yeah. Right.
So that people can actually-
Well, we have like right next to this, our building is a house. And across the street is storage and then a thing.
And
And
this
then
way there's
us,
a house or two.
and they're not happy at the idea of turning this into commercial and it's
Yeah,
like,
and again, that, you know, that's just the idea of we're zoning it commercial and now we're taking your house and turning it into a gas station. Like,
Yeah.
we're not doing that.
yeah.
We're just saying that if anyone tears this house down, this is now a commercial zone lot. As long as your house is here, you can have this.
So if he sold it with the house on it, he could sell it as,
You can sell it as
Would-
a house that's assessed as
would-
residential,
as,
or
okay.
you could sell it to a developer who wants to tear it down and build commercial.
Right, somebody could buy it as a house and then just tear it down.
They would have to change it themselves. from
But we could
residential.
still have, say this house next door, somebody comes in there and say, I want to put a, resale shop in it, but we're gonna live. We don't have to, do we have to change it to residential or?
Well, so that depends on
That's
your,
allowed.
your wall requirements. So
Yeah.
if you have a certain setback in commercial that's bigger than residential, so let's say it's a house right next to the road, but your commercial uses, you have to be this far back,
Mhm.
that's not gonna work.
Because right now, we're allowing people to live in their business. So,
Yeah.
Would be nice to keep that going, right?
yeah, I just,
Because there are a lot of people that do that.
well, that's a charm, you know, that's
Home
nice.
business.
Yeah, and,
Yeah, easy on the transportation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Open it up.
mhm.
Yeah. That's, I guess that's planning 101. Congratulations.
Good to have you on board. This is good.
Yes, yeah, I, of all the processes, I like master planning the most. You know, we do mostly master plans, recreation plans, economic development strategies. Master plans are fun. Especially since you guys are coming into it with ideas for the future. And we get to move forward. Just give us a plan without changing anything. Right? Not even a park, like something. So yeah, you guys are coming into it. There's things you're obviously going to keep the same things you want to see change. We'll be on data. And,
Do you have a copy of our master plan now?
is it online?
Yeah,
Okay, I'll get it.
it's,
I'll have yours.
It's
Is your
sad.
Lawrence online too?
Should be.
Okay.
And you'll, just a note for you.
Is that 2020 though?
Yeah,
Certain
it's the
pages
same one.
That there have some changes to.
I know it had changes, but
For the zoning
this
ordinance?
one, he just
Okay.
made this.
I'm not going to dive too far into the zoning ordinance right
I,
now. Right now for me, it's just baseline, getting to know the community and, you know, figuring out what's, before I go, like, how many sidewalks are required.
yeah.
I like that idea of being able to put some of the restrictions in the master plan.
Yeah, anything that you want to do that could foreseeably lead to an argument, we cover in the master plan. Because the master plan goes through a public hearing process.
Right.
And it's announced, it has a 63-day public review period that's announced in the newspaper, and we'll handle that for you guys. So I'm not saying that that's going to happen here, but we do have people that show up after the plan's been adopted and go, you know, I didn't want this, I didn't hear about this.
Mhm.
And that's how we save ourselves if we go, it was in the news, it was 63-day period, there's a public hearing announced on Township Hall. Can't send a letter to every person. If you want to be civically engaged, you have to be civically engaged.
Right.
So, yeah, so, but anything that you don't want, the worst case scenario is getting to the zoning ordinance and going, we didn't cover that in our master plan, and that's a big deal. We want to make sure we cover everything.
So should we, before we see you again, be thinking about whether we want a special chapter like Mayfield put the agricultural preservation chapter in their master plan? Do we have anything specifically that we want to focus on?
Corridor chapter.
Corridor chapter?
Yeah, so, and we did that for Mayfield as well, because they have 37 going through there. And they wanted things like parking behind businesses, a large enough setback that the views are maintained, shared access drives, so you're not pulling into a driveway every 10 feet, things like that, lighting. So that's all covered in the plan. So when they go to their signage, so when they get to their zoning, they go, oh, that's exactly the type of signage everyone said they wanted. They didn't want billboards, or they did want billboards. Okay. So we'll spell that all out. If that's, I'm assuming corridor is going to be the main discussion at this point. Corridor, ag.
Yeah, do we need an agricultural preservation section?
I would say if you actually want to preserve agriculture, you're not going to do it with 2.5 acre.
Wait, repeat that again.
If you want to maintain agriculture, you won't do it with 2.5 acre minimum. So
Right.
typically the minimum is 40 acres.
Oh, wow.
That's what they did at Buckley. Is that Mayfield? Is that Buckley? Didn't they just pass that 40-acre minimum to build on?
Mayfield put it in their master plan. They haven't adopted the ordinance.
Oh, okay.
We got some of the land we got for that. We got from Williamston Township, outside of Lansing. They did 40 acre minimums, and that was all based on prime farm soils, the size of the parcels. So it was like if you had a house on 5 acres, we're not going to include you. It's like we're more looking at people who have 120 acres, and we're worried about that.
Yeah.
Split 9 ways and then kind of being lost.
Because right now we have an agriculture section, but it doesn't say anything about the minimum acreage. It just says what the goal is to encourage maintenance of.
We'll probably lose that though for those residential developments.
And we have so much state land that takes up the big chunks. I don't think we have that many huge parcels, really.
So what we did in Mayfield, this is just food for thought. We don't need to make plans today, but what we did in Mayfield is we said, we made 2 agricultural districts, unlike yours, where it's like, it's residential, but you can have ag uses. And then we had an ag preservation district, 40 acre minimums. If you want to develop that land, you can only develop 25% of it, but in that 25%, you can put as much housing as building and health code will allow. There's no minimum setback, there's no minimum acreage, it's whatever health code will allow you to put in there. Shared septic, whatever you want to do. And then the other 75% has to remain agricultural, open space, recreation, forest land.
But
So
does
that-
the minimum have to be 40 acres? What if somebody has 20 or 25 acres and they're having an orchard or they're having something else in there? Does the minimum have to be 40 acres?
No. If you're trying to, are you saying it's somebody with like 25 acres and they're trying to preserve it forever?
Well, if it's agriculture now, and then you're saying the minimum is 40 acres.
Could you say minimum 20?
Oh, to split it.
Yeah,
But if they don't split it,
they can.
It's gonna be less than that.
That's
What
fine.
what Mayfield was trying to avoid was having people with 40 to 100 acre parcels from making big splits rather than saying, put 50 houses on it, but it's gotta be condensed.
Mm.
And I'm not saying that that's what you should do. I'm just
No.
giving you the example of.
That would be like with the common areas, that guy down here, right? So, yeah, I don't know if that's a good idea right now, but,
Well, we also have to think about, because I'm trying to find our like current zoning map, but we have a lot of state land too, so we don't really have a lot of workable
Yeah,
land that we're trying to,
and it's
Zone.
total your preference, what the community looks like. You know, some communities want to be, some communities want to be single family residential on large lots with a little bit of commercial and some agricultural uses.
that's us.
That's us.
Yeah.
That sums us up.
If you came to me and said, we want to preserve ag land and we're having a housing problem and we want more housing, then I'll give you the Mayfield route. If you're like, all we want to do is preserve ag land, I'll give you a different route. So whatever the responses are through this process, that's what the zoning plan will recommend.
How does it work with, because, I mean, I think we're like 65% or more state land in our township. So they do whatever the heck they want. But if they sell, then whoever they sell to has to follow our zoning, right? So we still zone the state land based on the area. Like, I mean, most of this green is state land. So we would still say this is rural residential, 2.5 or 5 acre minimums or whatever. So if we did have that ag preservation, it would likely be places where we don't all live anyways right now.
What could happen too with certain developments when you have an area, whatever it's 2.5 acres or 5 acres of compound, you don't want to call the police on you because you got dust coming up into the residential area because they put the residential area next to the ag areas. And so
Yeah.
then you say, well, we don't want that anymore, and I've seen it. So downstate this happened. So we're trying to preserve stuff. We also got to make sure though any development that goes near these, that they know that you're walking into a potential problem later on down the road. So
You don't want the rooster crowing
that's right. That's
in the
right.
morning that you don't want to live next to it.
I'll be curious to see what you guys find. I mean, we have it in our master plan, but how much actual real agricultural land is here, like working farms? I don't think we have.
Well, I
You
think
don't have that
I can't
many.
think of
You
one.
have some.
All.
Some of it's been destroyed by
A horse
chemicals.
farm,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
a
it.
horse farm.
Yeah.
But like corn and
Yeah,
nothing.
but corn's different. You could still make money on small acreage. Mushroom growing, you can have a building and grow mushrooms. Now, that would be agricultural, but it's not. You don't need 20 acres. You can do stuff on 2 acres, and you just got to think about it, smart about it, and you can make money. I mean, you're growing like hazelnuts. You don't need 100 acres. You can do a lot in 5. And you might not think it, but it should still be something. Once I do that, I don't have a problem with the neighbor, complaining, so, oh, he's grinding up the trees there. He's planting new ones. He's disking the ground up. So I think it's, with our ag, for our recreational agricultural thing, these people that move in there, they need to expect that it's a potential problem later on down. And also you're going to be spraying. You might be spraying certain things, and they might not like it. And I'm not saying it's poison, I'm just saying you might be spraying, so.
Better not be poison.
No, I'm just saying it's just.
How much
Yeah.
of the marijuana issue falls into a master plan?
You guys have a marijuana ordinance?
Yeah.
So,
Does it permit or does it prohibit?
One
One medical.
medical grower.
Yep.
That's it.
Is it like a lottery process for that or?
It was at the beginning, but
You
we only had
get
it.
a lottery for one?
It wasn't really even a lot.
No,
It was an
it's,
application and they wrote the zoning ordinance for one guy.
well, now it's dropping. The grower operation is dropping. The retail spots are dropping.
Yeah.
There's not that many like there was. I mean, you go through Benzonia.
Oh, yeah, I noticed
That's crazy.
that late leaf storm.
Yeah. There was some.
But unless you have in Langston.
Is there any chance that we could reverse that? Drop that,
No.
pull that out of there so we.
we
don't
could,
have it?
we could take it out.
Yeah,
We don't have to leave it in.
that would be good if we just took it out.
But that's the zoning ordinance,
Yeah.
not the master plan. Does the master plan address that ever?
It can, yeah.
Have you ever
Yeah.
run into that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It's one of the contentious issues.
Where you,
I
they
went through
say
a
no.
recreation Plan process one time and there were 30 persons right by. I said, wow, people really care about pickleball courts here. And inside they were talking about the marijuana ordinance.
Yeah. So a couple of things I had written down from before was like, noise ordinance. These are just things we threw out as we were discussing. Short-term rental limits. Does that come up in?
Short-term ordinance.
We do, but we don't have like limits. I mean, we have one lake, 2 lakes in our, I guess.
Assessment on short-term rentals, is it, I guess the options would be ban, permit without regulation, and regulate in some way.
We regulate in some way. We have to look
They have
at
to have
the
a site
plan,
plan,
the
right?
site
Somebody
plan.
has to Come in with a site plan, have approval from the fire department, have to come in front of the planning commission to get approval to have it.
Make it a permanent.
We don't even issue a permit.
Oh, okay.
We have no.
It's like a special use, isn't it? Special use permit?
Don't know for sure if it is a special use or not.
They still have to follow like for handicapped people who's running it.
Yeah, they have, we have all that written in our zoning when somebody came
Yeah.
to make sure you have this many
We were a
bathrooms.
joint township before with Homestead, and there was a couple going in over there, and they wanted to do that, and there was some people opposed to it, but I think we talked about the safety of it, and if they're going to rent it out for they have to have handicap bathrooms and
Oh, no,
the doors.
short-term rentals are under special use approval,
Yeah.
so they would have to get special. use.
Oh, they do. Okay.
And it's for less than 30 days.
What's that?
It's for less than 30 days, according to our definitions.
Yeah,
For short term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in a master plan, would you say, would you put in there somewhere, our future goal is to have no more than 30 short-term rentals or allowed or something? That's kind of what you do.
yeah, you really have to get into regulation.
Well, but then from there, you, in the zoning,
That's
then,
one where you want us a lot of. That's one with that people.
have a fit about, yeah.
Like Traverse City,
Mm-hmm.
I maintain a couple different Airbnbs for people. And every year they have a license renewal through the city of Traverse City. Every 2 years you have a fire inspection, so the fire marshal has to come in. Every year you have to have a self-fire inspection. So I have to go in and check all the smoke heaties and go through everything, write everything out, turn it in. And the second year, I have to meet the fire marshal. He has to do the same thing with me. And then every year they have to have a renewal. And I think Traverse City regulates how many, I don't know what the
Yeah.
limit is right now. I know
How many
some
permits they issue?
Yeah. It's on the
It's
waiting list.
commercial too.
Yeah.
If somebody drops one, then he can get the next license.
I have a question for you too. Have you found, is it better for a township to have apartment rentals versus the tiny home?
I haven't really seen anybody, Maple Grove, we did in Manistee, we did their master plan. They wanted tiny homes outside of, so it was Caledonia Maple Grove Joint Planning Commission. They wanted tiny homes outside of, as an option outside of the village. They didn't want them in the village.
Okay.
But if you're in a rural area, they were like, we don't really care what you put on these parcels. They haven't adopted that ordinance yet, so they would be the only ones that I've seen do the tiny homes. I don't know. The tiny homes get tricky because you have to specify a lot of architectural standards to avoid it being a mobile home. That's not what you want.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the minimum is 576 square feet.
Correct.
I mean, that's not a tiny home, but that's pretty small. home.
24 by 24 would be so that, depending on, I don't know how much that is square footage wise, I can't.
The
576.
the issue you run into though is what's the difference between a tiny home and a single wide.
Yeah.
That's how we did our thing. The thinnest, the skinniest wall has to be 24 feet.
Right, but if you're looking for a 250-foot tiny home, that math that can be difficult.
Yeah.
Then you get into it's the foundation, it has to have a pitched roof, it has to,
Can't be on wheels.
it has to have work, you know.
Mhm.
It has to be built just like a standard home. Yeah. But the same methods, just meet that minimum.
So you have to ask the question, do you want a bunch of big stick-built tiny homes that might have, they might go out of fashion in 20 years?
Yeah.
So that's, yeah, okay.
So,
That's why I was thinking, we thought we would say they could go, if somebody wanted to build one of those communities, they could go in this area.
like a condominium development, but for tiny homes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like those might be, those spaced out might be better and people take better care of them than an apartment complex.
Well, I mean, we all drive past Sycamore. It's a homeless community now. People live in their motor home, their campers all year long. You passed it when you came. You probably didn't see it, but like there's a shortage of homes. So people are living in their RVs.
Yeah, that's why Calvin did that.
Yeah.
And they also allowed, not manufactured, but what am I blanking?
Modular.
Modular homes.
And we have something like that, but this tiny home thing, I guess tiny means different to everybody, but
It does.
Tiny would still have to fit our minimum right now.
Right.
And a lot of developers, probably, yeah, pretty involved from developers next year, wanting to know if they can build tiny homes. Yeah, well, as long as it meets the requirements.
but right now it's
Yeah, I'm just
one
thinking,
tiny home on 2.5 acres.
What's your minimum, building footprint for residential, is it like 600?
It's 25, 24.
576.
Yeah. So.
But if you could build a bunch of those, but space them out in a community, it would still look nicer than.
Well, like the township owns 30 acres just down here and it's empty. So
And it was an orchard, right?
Yeah.
And they sprayed the land and were afraid that the soil might not be good. Did we ever get that soil sample back?
We
I don't
don't
think
have
it's-
a soil
No.
report yet.
No, I don't think it's
But we're
that
also,
big of an issue right now. Yeah, I don't think it's like you got.
But it is, you probably couldn't garden there.
I think you can. I think that's needs to be tested. So you can actually put certain plants in, will absorb it and neutralize a lot of that stuff. So you can come in with somebody who does ag and who's an expert on that, and they would tell you what to plant. That's why I said this land should not be sitting there like that. Let's plant it.
the planning for that 30 acres is for a new hall and a new fire station.
was.
But if you got arsenic in it, there's things you can do. But by just letting it sit here, there's some areas that have arsenic. You're not gonna be drinking well water in some areas, but they might have, anybody have to pump water in and there'll be, or huge holding tanks, but there's things that could be done. So it shouldn't sit.
Would you have to do soil remediation for that?
Well, like I said, you could still, there is plants, I got stuff that you can plant in there, but it's not that bad. I mean, there's been lots of chemicals. You've dumped stuff down your toilet that it could be an issue. And that goes down pretty far. I mean, eventually it's gonna be getting in a water table, but a lot of it's so fine, and I don't think it's as bad as what people think. But I've seen it bad over there on the East Bay, and a lot of the McManus farms had it, and it kind of scared a lot of the people. So they pump water in, but that was I think something to do with the county and the sewage. The sewage was still going into tanks, so it's just you got a lot of groundwater and stuff that's going into these creeks too, like Mitchell Creek over there. But
That's a big one for us. We
Yeah.
have Platte River runs through here and we have a lot of feeders and that's water preservation is big for us in particular.
there's not much arsenic placed on the ground, and they're not spraying that stuff anymore, like they used to.
So the
Or-
survey, will you show up next meeting? Are we gonna,
Yeah, so what
Right.
I do is I'll bring a list of like block questions that we always use.
yeah,
Are you residents of this community? What do you think about? Or what new businesses we might see coming to the corridor? What types of housing would you like to see in the community? We have a set of like 15 that we always ask, and then we basically let you guys can include anything that you want. So, like Manatee County, whose master plan we're doing right now, they wanted to know about healthcare because Munson is pulling out some services. So they wanted to ask specifically about that. So we try to keep it under 7 minutes to take more or less. So otherwise you don't get complete surveys.
Yeah,
So, yeah, that's a lot of questions.
okay.
That's why we do the survey and the input section because things you could dedicate 10 survey questions to. It's like you could probably just ask people that in person and get a better
Okay.
grasp of it.
So we had site condominium developments was I don't know where the hell this came from. I found it in my book, like, is it your handwriting? Ask planner about, it's mine, but I don't remember when it's not dated or what meeting or anything. Things that we've been bringing up all along, private campgrounds and limiting those. Different, I think we touched on all those. Basically, yeah, we basically want to kind of keep it the same with minimal growth, I guess would be our goal.
Yeah. Trying to think how to say this. Growth is going to be mostly determined by economic pressures. So if you see incredible demand for housing or businesses in this community, I guess what I tell people is zone for if the growth has to happen, make it look how you want it to look.
I think that's where we are
Yeah.
right now. We're already there.
Yeah, the interesting part, all these different developers that have reached out to me, they must be talking to each other because I haven't had a phone call in a while asking to build, small communities. Because we just doesn't live off.
But we don't have an industrial area that could make the job, so a lot of it's Traverse City. It's just, I mean, there's still space over there, so it's just not affordable. See, so
That's a problem.
that's the thing, but it's not gonna solve their problem, so they can't get enough workers right now. And there's people that can't find a house, so you're making drive 30 miles here and then 30 miles back to work, and I don't think that's solving the actual problem. So, when you have a lot of homes and you are renting them out for short term, and you don't have enough places for your workers, so.
And that's what we're facing. And I'm sure you were hearing that in Mayfield. They're doing the same thing.
But that's not our.
Yeah, because we are pretty convenient.
Traverse is busting at the seams.
Yeah.
And I mean, I work for the Realtor Association
Every day.
I do too. I mean,
I did that too for 33 years.
Got done 30 minutes away.
Oh, that's right, Nellie, right down the street from where.
but it's like I always say, I live here. I drive here for a reason.
Yeah.
I'm willing to do that.
We don't want to be trapped.
We don't want to be, if we did,
But I heard this, that we need to do this thing, and we don't need to do that.
No,
So-
no.
We shouldn't be pressured by what's going on in Traverse City. So, so
we
that's,
just, our goal is protect what we
Yeah.
have.
because they're not gonna wanna move here when there are 20 acres or something. They're gonna, well, no, they got this there, this there, this there. We have that in Traverse City, they don't, I don't know, I just think people, they want too many things, and really, you don't need a lot of this stuff, so.
Well, I don't think we've out ordinanced. There was a guy just down the street from me on 5 acres. He built a home on his property for his daughter, a small home. Well, it was in violation. So we said, you need to just split. So we told him, just split your property and you're in. Now his property is split real funny, but it's still 2.5 acres is a lot, especially when you go into Traverse, like,
Mhm.
I mean, Travis is still small town. I mean, you go to Cleveland, you could stick your hand out the window and put it in the neighbor's
But
bedroom,
did
you
he
know.
build the house and then ask for forgiveness is what happened?
That's what he
Yeah.
did.
That's what we have to stop though. It's just
Yeah.
like, you know,
Right.
and it just seems like that's gonna continue and
But I mean, we're
Well,
on
that's
the
what
plan.
Zach is saying, though. He's saying it's gonna grow. If it's gonna grow, think about what you want it to look like, right? That's what-
And we could,
Pressure, you'll have a house on every 2.5 acres.
yeah,
Mhm.
and that's
I
what
don't want that.
we're want to avoid.
Yeah, so, you know, we'll talk about strategies to do that. Yeah. But, yeah, think about, you know, if, I understand the sentiment of like, we shouldn't have to determine our housing based on what's happening in Traverse City. And it does go both ways. It's like, we don't need to accommodate everything that's happening in other communities, but,
But you do.
there's also the reality of,
Yeah,
people are gonna wanna build houses here.
yeah.
And, you know, maybe you want them on bigger lots, but then that comes at the cost of the ag land. Maybe you want them on smaller lots, but
Well-
that comes at the cost of the character of the community. So it's like,
Well, Traverse City's not doing it on the 2.5 acres, they're doing it less. See, so that's the problem there, you know, and you look at the price of those houses and taxes went up and but there's not enough housing, you know, so.
Well, that's what he's saying, is there's not enough there, so they're gonna move here and they're gonna put one up every 2.5 acres.
Yeah, but
yeah.
That's the other thing,
You
too.
could say in an ideal world, they're allowing 6-story condominiums everywhere. And we don't have to worry about it here because there's enough housing because they allow the density. Well, that's not happening. So,
Ian, I'm not trying to be a jerk about it. I'm just saying it's like, well, we're gonna try to kind of keep this the way it looks, you know, now, and we're gonna have to make some more rules, and but I think the apartment thing, if it's gonna happen, stay right on this corridor, you know. I'd rather see it go up than go out, you know. So you know, it's I don't want to see that much growth, you know.
But we could change it from right now, which is a minimum of 2.5, we could change it to a minimum of 5, right?
I mean, it depends. We'll get into the details of that. Yeah, I can't say one way or the other. Yeah. It might be 10, it might be a quarter, it might be. Depends.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about it.
But we have those areas that you can only divide so many times.
Yeah, the land division.
Yeah,
That might help us out for a while, you know.
till we're dead anyways.
Yeah, I mean, the Land Division Act restricts obviously how many splits you can have. Doesn't preserve the ag, I guess.
Yeah.
If the goal is to have a bunch of houses on larger lots, if your goal is to preserve ag, it's not fine. I guess that's the way I would put it.
Mhm.
So if the goal is to have a rural character community, but the actual farm land is in the top priority, then that's the 2.5 acres. That's probably fine.
And I'm not thinking about it's gonna be all this tillable land, you know. There's other types of farming, you know, so as I said, the greenhouse, the
People
hydroponics.
with smaller houses with individual gardens, you know, just so people all have.
Yeah, so, I mean, people want to.
I'd rather look at that than look at an apartment building. I'd rather see gardens, you know.
Yeah, no, like, Mayfield was in a position where they had 5 acre minimums. I think it was 5 acres. I mean, Maple Grove in Manistee, they had 5 acre minimums as their ag residential.
Mhm.
And that's fine for them. They go, yeah, everyone here wants to live on 5 acres. And then closer to Calaba, which has development pressure, they put in half acre lot subdivision allowances.
Yeah.
Because they were like, that's where the water is, you know, here, you know, people want to live in the country here, so.
And we have a couple, like Bandon is like that, and part of our,
But that's been there for a long time, so.
yeah, but when I mentioned that at a meeting, that we had envisioned that as a mixed whatever, in a little artist community or something, the lady that lived down there was, Okay, you know, so
No, this helps us though.
all I know is, like I said, I work in the real estate association and I get in arguments daily with my one young coworker he keeps just saying, well, they're coming. And I'm like, there's no room. Well, it doesn't matter. They're coming. They're coming
Well, the
anyway.
other thing too, the taxes keep going up. Like they've been going up a lot the last couple of
Yeah.
years, especially.
Yep.
It's been huge jumps.
Yeah.
And for people that have been here like you guys
Like-
forever, and it's really going up. You're feeling it too, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we learned this year on that order review just why this happens.
Yeah.
Because these idiots with way too much money pay $200,000 more than asking price for the home. And that raises all of our taxes and
Yeah.
based on sales.
Yeah.
And they don't.
Price of the home.
Yeah, no way the
And brains.
Yeah, so think about that too. Well, I don't know which way it would go, but the idea of having, you know, I don't mean to keep going back to tiny homes. I mean like smaller homes, affordable homes, versus apartments. You don't have any of them paying taxes in the apartments, right? 'Cause
They have been taxed, the owner of the apartments.
yeah, they real.
yeah,
I think we're talking like right on the main highway if we had a couple. If we were going to allow apartments or condos,
yeah.
that would be it.
We can show you development. I'll have examples of denser housing developments too. You know, some communities are
Probably a
like,
bunch of renters that don't
we're
care about the
anti-triplex,
community.
quadplex, and then I show them a one that has design regulations, and they're like, that was great. Really love that. It's like, right, well,
Yeah. Cause I could see people, you know, not wanting to plow and do trash and whatever, where with a tiny home, you're on land, you still gotta mow the grass and, I mean,
But the kind of right down the street, it's not fully full now. So why not, if that was gonna be a small housing project, that might be the place, right? You already have kind of a setup there right now. So maybe that's allowable right now within that.
district.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think that's part of the questions. That can be a thing. Do we want to allow apartment buildings in our commercial district or something? Or
Yeah.
would that be an in-person question?
I mean, if it's something you want to know the answer from the public from, we can ask in the survey, or we can ask in the setting. And then, you know, it could be a matter of, maybe you don't like apartment complexes going in Traverse City where there's a big pool in the middle and big buildings with no design quality. You know,
Yeah.
I lived in for 5 years until I moved out of town.
Right.
Maybe you're fine with those, maybe you're not. Maybe it's like if we had a bunch of 3-story colonial themed apartments everywhere, that doesn't look too bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not, you know, yeah, it's not my opinion.
Well, we have those apartment, not on our township, but just down on 31. There, it looks like a big house, but it's apartments. Where that printing press picture is, and,
Oh,
you know what I mean?
that has apartments.
Where?
The motel thing across from
Oh,
bus garage.
So the survey question,
Oh, yeah.
Mary hates apartments. What do you think?
oh, well, you know, I just think if you get renters, I sound like my mom. I'm totally becoming my mom. But she's like, renters would not take pride in their property as much as maybe if somebody had a little home and, you know, in a home, you're gonna landscape and have gardens, and I just don't know about apartments.
Maybe a condominium.
And apartments also have traffic, just so many cars.
My rent, but people are just renting homes.
Was that?
Yeah, people are just renting homes that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The landlord is.
Even Habitat for Humanity didn't work out the way most people wanted it, you know, 'cause some of those areas are, you know, you own a house and you're supposed to spend time with it, you know, yourself to buy the house. And then they were kept up. There's a lot of areas that just haven't kept up. And you're thinking, well, it was a great program.
People,
take care of it.
people.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see, we have, on the books, we have, land the first Monday of every month for our work sessions, right?
Mhm.
How many, you're saying a year? I've looked on our thing, it says 8 meetings, so that would be like this plus, this doesn't count. So we already have that scheduled.
I'll reiterate, that number is in there specifically for the difficult.
Okay.
That's for, like I said, if we're 4 meetings into drafting the survey, and then it takes 6 other meetings, it's like, okay, we gotta charge for those election meetings.
Okay.
If things are going smoothly and we need 2 extra meetings, we're not gonna be like, says it, we just did 9.
Yeah.
That's not.
I know the survey, Jim Brower has been wanting to survey all the townships, so I gave him Zach's number and, cause he came to the board with some like $25,000
Yeah,
quote,
and I
some
talked
ridiculous thing.
So
What do you want a survey about?
He wants to know everything from what color socks these people wear.
So we charge,
He's probably watching going, I do not.
we charge less than other organizations for surveys, I would say. I'm trying to think what Jim and I talked about doing as a middle ground. But essentially, if we were to mail out surveys to people and have them mail back, you're paying for the postage. And then we charge $100 for every 4 surveys that we have to enter into the software. And
Wow.
it takes a long time. We did one in Whitewater Township in Grand Traverse. I think we got like 450 responses. And that's
Yeah, kind of.
So,
Money.
we said, I was talking to Jim about this, and I said, if the planning commission wants to enter those surveys into our software, they're more than welcome. There's different degrees of, we'll work with you to figure out what you want. There's like the $10,000 version where we mail a survey to everybody and we enter them in ourselves. And then there's everything below that.
Which basically you could say, go to our website, go to Networks Northwest and answer this survey, please.
Typically, what
Or
we do is we give you a survey flyer with, take the survey for the master plan. This is what a master plan is. Here's the webpage. We'll set up a webpage for you on our website. It's got the survey flyer will have a QR code and a link to the website. You can take it there with their phone, or they can go to our webpage and click the link.
Or we can have a hard copy somewhere, those listen to the computer stuff.
Yeah, but then, I mean, if it's like 12 surveys, I can do that. If you guys get 70 people here with surveys.
then we could enter
You guys
it. I could enter.
Put those in, yeah, it's fine.
So we could send out the postcard to remind everybody. And we could even mail, the township itself could just mail out a letter, right? With
Still cost, but yeah.
but not 20-something thousand
Yeah,
like Jim.
postcard would do it, say,
And are we having any sort of events coming up? I heard we're not having a chili cook-off this year.
I can't even know about children.
I was just thinking maybe if there was a community event, we could spread the word about the survey.
Yeah.
and I think postcard would be the best.
Yeah.
And then those that are computer savvy could do the QR code or whatever.
Yeah. Blair Township
I
just
can
did
do that.
Blair Township just did a postcard for the survey and they got a huge response rate.
Yeah.
That's probably what we'll do.
We could have hours where we open up to people who need help with entering their survey, where they come in and we just type it right in with them right there. Or
Yeah.
Office hours or, yeah.
that'd be too much.
No, I say, I would be the person saying, I don't know how to do this, so.
Yeah, I understand. I'm not a fan.
And I don't want to know how to do it.
Right.
Just don't like me.
Yeah.
Then it's to make them quit running. No, seriously.
I'm with you, Larry. I want to be off the computer as much as possible. I know they're necessary.
Twice I sent off the alarms when I was flying somewhere because walk in and they go, okay, what have you got? And I had nothing. vibrations are too high or something, I set it off, and I'm like, okay.
Okay, so we have the first Monday of every month is what we've set aside for work sessions. And it's at 6 o'clock. Does that work with
We're doing other things.
We were gonna rewrite the zoning, but if you think we should do that later, I mean,
I don't know where you're at with your zoning. It's not the huge stuff we're doing. So actually,
it actually follows along with what you're doing, because what we're doing is going through and saying, if this use is allowed here, and we're actually kind of familiarizing ourselves with what we currently allow, and at the same time, we're recognizing that there's some stuff in here we don't address, period. So,
And some of it might be required by law to address at this point.
yeah.
I guess 3 options. One, you can, I can limit my time to an hour at these work sessions, and then if you want to do the ordinance after that hour, we can do a separate standalone date for this, so that you can keep this day, or here's about ordinance ready, or we can keep this date and you push the ordinance to later.
Let's keep this date.
That's what I think.
Because
Yeah,
they're
you guys-
based on the master plan anyway.
How would you guys feel about meeting? We used to meet at 5. Would it be possible to go back to 5, or is that hard for your work?
It's hard for me, but
Okay.
I mean, I could try to do some like 5:30, so, you know,
It just gets
Wednesday,
kind of late.
I could do anything on Wednesday, so, but, it's just the other days, but, I mean.
Oh.
You want to change our day?
I'm not saying we have to change it, but
Does
I'm
Wednesday
free
work
right now,
for you,
so.
or- What's that?
Wednesdays?
That could be tough. That's already my long day at work.
Yeah.
And we have
Oh,
meetings.
She goes to work at like 3 o'clock in the morning.
I get up at 3.
We could change the date because when summer comes, I'm gonna have the same problem with playing with the orchestra. So
Right.
I was gonna say,
What's the best day for you?
Monday's the best for me. If that works for you. So we don't have to move it from
No.
6.
And I can see-
Should we shoot for 5:30?
Well, I can do 5:30, but I can try to do 5. I'll have to talk to them, see what.
I mean, 5:30, if we started at 5:30, we'd be getting out of here closer to
Yeah, and
7. Then
and
which
it would
isn't
be-
bad.
5:30 works for me. I
Maybe one
can't.
time a month for me. I mean,
yeah,
yeah,
that'd be
so
okay for me.
let me work on it. Is it all right? Okay, I'll work on it tomorrow. I will talk to them. So,
Okay.
I have
So
a-
we'll just decide whether 5 or 5:30. Does that work for you?
I have to do sessions on Saturdays.
So whatever, yeah.
Whatever you guys.
I'm just thinking you gotta drive all the way to Calcasta, so you probably don't want it to be late too.
I have done projects in southeast Manistee or southwest Manistee County. It doesn't matter, you know.
You're young, yeah.
Okay, so we'll just get back with you, but let's just plan on having it the first Monday of every month until we're done. We'll just establish whether it's 5 or 5:30.
Yeah, tomorrow I should be able to find out something. So,
Okay, what's the
Email
date
you or-
in February?
I'll just email you.
Okay.
It's just to confirm the time.
Okay, February 3rd.
February 3rd?
I'll add that. Right, it's the first Monday.
It is, yes.
Well,
Okay.
nice to meet you, Zach.
No, nice
Thanks
to meet you.
for being here.
Thank you.
So you'll get a good plan.
I feel like it was very helpful.
Good. Yeah, you'll be master plan experts by the end of this.
Yeah.
If you want to see sort of what
Oh, yeah, that was my
plans
question.
look like eventually now, if you go to networksnorthwest.org or nwm.org, it's not the most easy to navigate, but it's under our community tab. Project.
Wait, what is it again? NW?
NWM, as in Northwest Michigan, nwm.org. That's the short link. And then you go to community, and then,
Projects?
yep.
And will that show us somebody else's master plan?
Yeah, so we have it organized by year. So, the recent ones that are on there, Dixon Township has their public hearing to adopt their next week. It might be similar to you, Maple Grove, Calva, Bear Lake. We're working on Kingsley right now. I'll look at it. Mayfield will be on there.
Well, there's a survey. There's click to take the survey.
Which one are you looking at?
Blair Township.
Yep, I'm not working on that one, but, it's active as well.
Are they planning to do any regulation on their BBs now or not?
Blair?
Yeah,
I don't know. The main concern there is ag preservation.
gotcha. I talked to their zoning administrator a while back, because people were asking me about the Airbnbs here. And I called and talked to her, and she said, we don't regulate them in any way, shape, or form. People can have as many as they want, and that's all along Silver Lake.
Yeah, that's one option.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I said, well, do you ever have any complaints, any problems? She says, we've had one complaint. She says, there's, town doesn't want to pay for anybody to go out, hire somebody to go at 2 o'clock in the morning and somebody's leaving the house. Yeah. But one complaint, and she's been, I think, 5 or 6 years. Yeah.
Can you have any examples of master plans that you guys have worked on recently that are complete where we could go to that
Yeah. If you
website?
go to archive projects. Not on there, on this drop down on the right here,
Oh, over here.
up, down. So that's-
Oh, there, yeah. Archive project.
So you have Bingham Township Master Plan. That, I didn't work on that one, so it's gonna look different. Mayfield. That's one that I did, if you scroll down a little more. Calva, Maple Grove, Bear Lake.
That's similar to us, I think. Bear Lake is similar because they're right along the,
Bear Lake is very similar.
yeah,
They're ag and they're on a corridor.
okay.
That's good.
Yeah, they need some water and sewer, and that would change their whole life there.
Yeah, that got shut.
Yeah.
We introduced ourselves. Why
Oh,
don't you
yeah.
say who you are?
Oh, now let's,
Ellie?
Mary Miller, because there's 2 Marys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mary too.
Number 2.
You met Laura, right?
Laura. Oh. Yeah.
Are we wrapping it up?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks a
So
lot.
this is what I already have. Do you want this? 'Cause
No,
already
I
have
had
it.
that one in the book. So
They needed to,
well, I got
But everybody did get the
You want it?
definitions that I
Yeah.
passed out, right?
yeah. I
Look
got
how
it.
much nicer this looks than ours. Ours is like all
Thank you.
faded and black and white. You're gonna look at ours and
Almost
be
like
like,
it's all I do all day.
yeah.
It's almost like I do.
We've come to the right place.
No, it'll look good. It'll be something.
Very nice.
Thank you.
All right, thank
Very
you.
much. Have a good night.
Careful.
Yeah, it's slippery.
All right, so do we need a motion to quit or?
Move to adjourn.
Okay.
I second it. Did you say?
Yeah. 7, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7:43.
7:43.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
well, that was informative.
Talk to you.
Yeah,
Let's see.
that's good.
Talk to you soon.
I don't know if it's still snowing out.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure.
Well, I do think it would help for us. We have another meeting. I don't know if anything's coming up, but
Do you have anything coming up, Jim, for 2 weeks from now?
I
Lunch.
don't believe so, no.
Good. Lunch?
Yeah, my lunch.
so maybe at our next meeting, if we don't have anything, our regular meeting, we
Uh-huh.
can just discuss amongst ourselves what we want to see and,
Take a look where we're at.
yeah.
Double check on the agenda and let you know if there's a change.
All right.
We already had
We haven't heard back from that guy.
either one.
I didn't reach out to the lawyer yet.
I started,
Yeah, what-
by the way, our attorneys are retiring.
Brian and
They're selling,
Both of them?
they're selling their practice.
Wow.
They have a new group coming in. But Brian called me today and he says,
Shoot.
I'm retiring and we have people coming in to take over. We're hoping that you guys stay with us because we're training them on everything that we've dealt with you guys. So we just got to try to make sure that we stick with them.
Do you know how to turn that off?
But anyway, I was
I guess.
digging through files trying to find anything that had to do with
You still got a bunch of
Is
lights.
it still
on.
going?
I don't know.
I dropped that thing. I pushed my computer out and knocked that thing flying.
Oh,
It's okay.
here's the power button.